This is Jesse Hunt's chapter outline, Chapter 1, Section 3, pages 11 to 14. The brain and behavior are reciprocally related. Here are some examples of research topics considered in this book. How does the brain grow, maintain, and repair itself over the lifespan, and how are these capacities related to the growth of the mind from the womb to the tomb? How does the nervous system capture, process, and represent information about the surrounding environment? How does sexual orientation develop, and what do the differences in straight versus gay men's brains tell us? What brain sites specifically underlie emotions and feelings, and what parts of the brain control fear and a sense of danger? How does the brain change during learning, and how are memories retrieved? Why are the different brain regions active during different reading activities? It is hard to understand how a physical device like the brain could be responsible for creating our seemingly metaphysical emotions. The everyday miracle is that the functioning brain might be the reason for so much folklore permeating our societies. Neuromythology is the folk wisdom about the brain, or commonly held beliefs about the brain and its functioning, which may be totally inaccurate. Often, these popular ideas are absolutely false. Here's an example. We only use 10% of our brain. A survey of teachers found that nearly half of them agreed with this notion. Neuroscientists have discovered that even when performing mundane tasks, almost all of the brain is activated. When you see images like 1.7a, you know that scientists have to work very hard to block out the background noise going on in the rest of the brain in order to look at the specific areas they want to study. Behavioral neuroscience contributes to our understanding of human disorders. Like any complex machine, the brain can break down and have malfunctions. A European survey found that nearly 38%, not a small chunk, of the population will experience a mental disorder at some point in a typical year. The percentage of U.S. adults who suffer from a mental disorder may be rising. The toll of these disorders is enormous for individuals and social costs. The National Advisory Mental Health Council estimates the direct and indirect costs of behavioral and mental disorders to be $400 billion a year. The cost of treatment for dementia alone is more expensive than cancer treatment and heart disease treatment combined. The World Health Organization estimates that over 15% of lost productivity due to disease burden is from mental disorders. The quest to eradicate mental disorders causes the line between medicine and research to fade. When clinicians discover a case, it can often raise questions for researchers as well. Animal research makes vital contributions. Human interest with and involvement with other species predates recorded history. To study the biological basis of behavior, it is required to use a species other than the humans. Many psychology textbooks underemphasize the amount of animal experiments which were used to create the research in them. The National Research Council found that about 93% of animal research is done with laboratory-reared mammals. They also reported that most Americans believe that animal research should continue. Researchers have an obligation to minimize the discomfort of their animal subjects. Ironically, animal research has given us many of the tools that we use today to decrease the discomfort experienced by animal subjects. A small but loud minority of people believe that regardless of the long-term effects, animal research is unethical. Peter Singer says that animal research is only ethical if the experiment produces benefits. However, the trick to that is knowing which experiments will produce benefits. Animal rights groups have vandalized labs, burned down buildings, and set off firebombs in the homes of scientists. Animal rights activists seem to be using personal attacks as a new tactic. Until we are able to create robots which look and act like humans so that we can study them humanely, there is no replacement for animal research. The history of research on brain and behavior begins in antiquity. Historically, the brain was not considered an important organ. The heart was considered an important organ where emotion came from in many historical texts. In about 350 BCE, the Greek physician Herophilus advanced our knowledge by dissecting both bodies of animals and humans. He traced nerves through the body and noted that each part of the body was connected by nerves to the spinal cord. A 2nd century Greco-Roman physician Galen treated the injuries of gladiators and noticed a connection between head injuries and control of behavior. Galen's ideas about the brain were very inaccurate because he refused to do studies or to dissect humans. Renaissance scientists began to understand brain anatomy. Leonardo da Vinci studied the workings of the body and laid foundational drawings of human anatomy. He pioneered providing views from different angles and cross-sections. Renaissance artists emphasized the image of the outside of the brain. The imagery was used in many depictions of God because the shape was believed to have been given directly from God.